Hello everyone, Dr. David Perlmutter here. This is coronavirus update number 25. I know I say this every day, but things are increasing globally. We're watching what's going on here in the States, in New York, and other major metropolitan areas as well. Interestingly, I would like to say that this was really what we had seen to be predicted at least a month ago, that these numbers would be present, and moving forward, those predictions look for, certainly a large number of people to be affected, at least infected by this virus, ranging anywhere from 40 to 70% of the global population. And we are seeing that play out, which is why we're certainly grateful that there has been such an incredibly stepped up rate of research and information sharing globally that I think is really going to light this fire for us and really help us get our arms around bringing this thing to perhaps a more rapid conclusion than has been so far anticipated. We all hope for that to happen, and I am encouraged by the research that I'm seeing. Now, we have talked on this program quite a bit about inflammation as it relates to how this coronavirus does its damage. Inflammation is something we're all familiar with. It's the reason your mosquito bite turns red and turns painful. It's because the body in a specific area can produce chemicals that are good, that help the body rid itself of things like bacteria, viruses, of course, and wall off infections, etc. But we can also have inflammation that goes on throughout our bodies. For example, we know that chronic inflammation in the entire body is what we see to be responsible for some of our chronic degenerative conditions like heart disease, coronary artery disease rather, type 2 diabetes is an inflammatory disorder, and even Alzheimer's is an inflammatory disorder. But what's going on here with COVID-19 is there is gasoline on this fire, and it just suddenly takes off. As I think the analogy of gasoline on the fire is very good. And when that happens during the course of this illness, it has been given a name called the cytokine storm. Let me explain. So cytokines are these chemical mediators of inflammation that do occur when we get sick and are actually, to some degree, helpful in terms of allowing our bodies to do what we need to do to rid ourselves of infectious agents. But what has happened in SARS and in MERS is we've seen just in some cases an incredible explosion of these cytokines to the extent that virtually the entire body is, if you will, engulfed in flames. So just an unbridled and unrelenting, overwhelming inflammatory response occurs in some people. We know that in some patients who have COVID-19, they similarly have this cytokine storm. Most estimates indicate that it begins at around day 10 after being infected. And it really is quite predictable now when an individual in the intensive care unit is going to go downhill from having the cytokine storm, because there are a variety of blood tests that predict that that individual is going to have that problem. And one of the ones that we are going to focus on today is called interleukin 6, or IL-6. We know that that is getting most of the attention as the chemical that seems to be responsible. It is a cytokine. It's a mediator of inflammation that is responsible for the sudden downturn of patients and their sudden deterioration. So, what is being looked at to perhaps calm the storm, to put out the fire of interleukin 6? Well, as fate would have it, there are some medications that are already out there that are being used to calm down interleukin 6, either to bind to interleukin 6 or to bind to the receptor or the key that interleukin 6 fits into, and therefore rendering it less useful. And interestingly, these drugs have been utilized for another inflammatory condition called rheumatoid arthritis. And there are a couple of drugs that are out there and being studied One of them is called Kevzara, tocilizumab, and another one is Actemra. That is in other words Actemra. So these are Actemra, which is tocilizumab, and another one, which is Actemra, are both being used as treatments. Kevzara is the other one. Are both being used as treatments for rheumatoid arthritis. Now, because they are able to block this interleukin-6 in one way or another, either directly block it or to block its receptor, they are being looked at. I'm going to post to you the recent studies on both of these drugs and read to you the FDA has now a randomized double-blind placebo-controlled phase 3 clinical trial to look at this Actemra, which is a rheumatoid arthritis drug designed to keep IL-6 from activating in patients who have advanced COVID-19. So take a look at that. Really super exciting. If it's in phase 3 trial already, that means that it's really on its way. I mean, this is clinical trials. I'm very excited to see this. I think it could open the door to some really incredible breakthrough in terms of this so-called cytokine storm, which is really a very threatening event that occurs in COVID patients COVID-19 patients in the intensive care unit or wherever they may be for that matter. Now, what else can we do? I mean, we won't have generally access to these rheumatoid arthritis prescription medicines. We should be thinking about what we can do as well to reduce IL-6, to limit the activity of IL-6, because this has been targeted or looked at as being one of the main contributing chemicals in terms of how COVID-19 is so darn damaging to our bodies when we get this infection. So it turns out that this IL-6 cytokine or chemical is expressed when we have certain pathways activated. We can suppress that expression. We can turn down IL-6 expression in our bodies when we activate something that I've been talking about for many years in many of my books called the Nrf2 pathway. This all sounds complicated, but it doesn't have to be, and I'll make it simple for you. If we activate a certain pathway, we can put the fire out, perhaps. One of the powerful ways that we can help reduce interleukin-6 or IL-6 is by using curcumin. That means turmeric in our cooking or even perhaps as a supplement. I'll post the reference now and go back to my story. We know that curcumin is a very effective inhibitor of interleukin-6. Most of the studies, and we've talked about this before, have talked about levels that might need to be achieved intravenously, but you know what? There is plenty of research showing the anti-inflammatory effects of turmeric available online, health food stores, in terms of calming down inflammation. We know that the anti-inflammatory effects of turmeric have been described for centuries and have been studied for the past at least 2 to 3 decades in a variety of contexts, including even Alzheimer's disease. So these are in vitro studies, they're in vivo studies in humans. So I would say you might want to consider adding turmeric to your supplement list or perhaps even to your cooking. Specifically, it's very important, this curcumin calms down IL-6. IL-6 is what gets lit up when patients suddenly deteriorate with the so-called cytokine storm when they're quite ill with COVID-19. So we know that curcumin is something that we want to think about. It acts, curcumin, through a pathway that many of you have asked me about in the past few days called the Nrf2 pathway. Well, what else do we know can also activate that Nrf2 pathway and therefore calm down interleukin-6? Well, let me just give you a citation. This would be a really good thing to look at. Let me go back over here. And so what else can we do to activate this pathway in order to calm down IL-6? So this isn't what you're hearing about on the evening news. It is it's take-home information. What can we do to activate this Nrf2 pathway in order to calm down IL-6 and calm down inflammation and balance even our immune systems? Well, there's a lot of beverages, including green tea, chamomile tea, various types of tea, and gratefully, you're going to love this, coffee. Who knew? Cruciferous vegetables, broccoli, kale, cauliflower, chives, collard greens, kohlrabi, leeks, lettuce, mustard greens, spinach, all activate the Nrf2 pathway. Allicin and organosulfur compounds. What does that mean? That means things like garlic, onions, scallions, shallots, horseradish, roots, things that are spices that come from roots, and certain vegetables that contain lycopene and the carotenoids. What would those be? Well, lycopene, of course, you're thinking about tomatoes, apricots, carrots, grapefruit, watermelon. These are other good ways of activating this Nrf2 pathway, calming down IL-6, and maybe having a better shot at survival should you catch this COVID-19 virus and end up quite ill in an intensive care unit. That's not where you want to be. I guess it is where you want to be if you're if you are really quite ill, but let's do everything on the front end to keep that from happening. That's what this time that I get to spend with you every day is all about. Now, let me take a couple of questions, and then there's a couple of posts that I want to put forth as we talk about fasting. Now, as many of you know, yesterday we introduced the idea of fasting. This will be our second time together fasting, and we're going to fast for 24 hours. I'm going to give you some up-to-date literature in terms of why this makes sense for our best defense. We don't have an offense yet. Our best defense, which is our immune system. So, Maureen says she's used it for 10 years. I'm not sure. Probably talking about turmeric. I don't know for sure. Okay. Let me look at a couple of questions. Is turmeric safe for people on blood thinners? I would say with everything that we talk about, ask your doctor. I do not see any issue with turmeric in terms of the blood thinners. I mean, the main foods one gets not concerned about, but well, you should ask your doctor about are the vegetables that are high in vitamin K if you're taking Coumadin, which might be the blood thinner that you are taking. So A is more likely to get COVID-19 than O. That apparently is true. We're talking about blood type. Broccoli sprouts and its sulforaphane also activates Nr2 from Sousa, and that is 100% true. Broccoli sprouts are easy to do. Get a sprouting jar, get some broccoli seeds. You can buy them online, or you can chew the seeds. Believe it or not, some recent research indicates that chewing broccoli seeds is a powerful way to give your body sulforaphane, which acts exactly, Susie, you are correct, acts through this Nrf2 pathway, can calm down IL-6. Okay. All right, let me look at, I want to tell you one last thing, and then we're going to give you a couple of citations, and that is, yes, Shania Davidoff, you are correct about the broccoli sprouts and H. pylori. That's recent research, and very impressed that you knew about that, but that is exactly correct. That it has been looked at in humans as a treatment for H. pylori. Very interesting. Any contraindications to taking turmeric? Example, blood dyscrasias, low platelet count. Probably at the dosage we are talking about. I don't think so, but I would again defer that to your discussion with your healthcare practitioner. Okay. All right. Now, let me do this. We're going to do a fast for the next 24 hours. Everyone's welcome. Of course, again, another disclaimer. You want to check with your healthcare practitioner. Why are we doing it? Now, I've posted a couple of new science citations on drperlmutter.com. Here comes one, and stand by, here comes the other. These do, in fact, talk about human trials, what it's doing to us, and how it can enhance immune function and calm inflammation, I might add. That's the whole ball of wax, isn't it? Fasting, who knew? I mean, we're hearing so much about these treatments that people are thinking about, whether it's hydroxychloroquine with azithromycin along with zinc, or antiviral medications, HIV medications, you name it. All great that we consider this, believe me. On the other hand, we know that there are lifestyle changes that we can make right now today that may have a strong effect in terms of our immunity. And fasting is certainly one of them. And it's the reason that after dinner tonight, I am going to not eat anything, even no coffee, which is kind of tough, but not going to do that either. Nothing but water, or I guess ice for that matter, until after our time together tomorrow evening. Now, I might try to check back with everybody midday tomorrow. I've got a lot of gardening to do, but I think I'll be able to check back and see how people are doing. And that will be a time when we just look at what you're all talking about. I won't be posting anything much tomorrow. Now, everybody ready for that? Have your dinner this evening, go to bed, have your dinner early, then go to bed, water tomorrow, of course, medications, but that's something you'll check with your healthcare practitioner. Now, what I want to leave you with this evening is an idea that can help calm you down. And it is very simple. It's called diaphragmatic breathing. And I'm going to explain what that is in just a moment, but I am going to post a link that you can look at. Okay. So the study, there's been quite a bit of research done looking at diaphragmatic breathing as a way to calm anxiety. And the article that I sent you from PubMed is called The Effect of Diaphragmatic Breathing on Attention, Negative Affect, and Stress in Healthy Adults. And my hope is that we're all healthy adults and that we could use some help with stress these days. I know I can, and it's the reason that we practice these techniques along with meditation and exercise and paying attention to our diet and fasting. Powerful lifestyle interventions that really can be helpful. So what is diaphragmatic breathing? Normally when we breathe, we take in a deep breath, right? But watch my shoulders. Shoulders come up, air comes in. That's not diaphragmatic breathing. Diaphragmatic breathing is, and you're not going to be able to see this, but it's breathing such that your shoulders remain neutral and your belly comes out. So it's belly breathing. Different kettle of fish. And what you might consider doing is inhaling for a count of 5, 1001 mentally, and exhaling for a count of 5, and trying to do this for about 2 minutes, 2 or 3 times a day. That is a good way to reset and let things go. Now, if you can get on this tomorrow, start tonight and do this tomorrow, while you are fasting, a double hit. You're gonna, it's a twofer for you. So I'm hoping that many of you will consider this, consider the benefits of fasting, if you can tolerate fasting, and perhaps most people can. And I would suspect that after our time together tomorrow evening, then when you have dinner, there'll be a lot of gratitude in your heart, and that is certainly a good thing for you, and it's certainly a good thing for everyone around you, because gratitude is the superhighway towards empathetic action. Well, everybody, thanks for spending time with me, and I'll try to reconnect midday tomorrow, see how everyone's doing. We'll check in. But for sure, I'll be back tomorrow night at 5 p.m. Eastern Standard. Bye for now. Thanks.